Now it's got Ray's name.
Huh?
Now it's got Ray's name.
Gordon, you are okay.
Ray's name.
It's your name.
You know
Oh,
what?
it's changing here.
I think
Gordon Carson, your name
start
is
the video.
correct.
I
Gordon,
think you're
your name is correct. Don't worry, Gordon, you show up as with your name, so you're fine.
There you go. You can put it on mute.
Hello, Silvio. Just testing this. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right on.
That's good.
You can see me too? Oh, I mean,
No,
not.
we cannot see you, but we can hear you. Now we can see you.
How about that?
Perfect.
There you go. Right on.
Right.
Well, it's plus 40 here at Christina Lake right now. It's cooking out there.
I envy you.
It was pretty nice. Spent lots of time in the water today just to keep cool.
Good.
Hi, Craig. You hear me?
Yeah, you betcha, Gordon. Yeah, loud
Okay.
and clear.
Okay. So, okay. Is everyone on and ready to go? Do we have the village online?
Yeah, we're ready to go, Gordon.
Okay. I would like to welcome the mayor and council and staff members of the Village of Valemount, directors and staff of the VCF, and members of the public to the VCF and VCFLP shareholders information meeting. I'm Gordon Carson. I'm the vice president of the Valemount Community Forest. And I'd like to ask each of the attendees to go around and introduce themselves. Can we start with the council? Owen?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Gordon. It's Owen Torgerson here, Mayor, and off to my left is Councillor McLean, and further down her left is,
Councillor Pete Pearson.
and off to my right,
Councillor Blanchard.
and unfortunately, Councillor Jean couldn't join us tonight, but staff members with us this evening are Wayne Robinson, CAO, Carlina Shepard, Deputy Corporate Officer, and Lori McNee, our Director of Finance. And our brains behind the scenes with our IT and our economic development is Silvio Gislimberti.
Okay, and directors of the Belmont Community Forest. We have Vern Mickelson.
Vern Mickelson, Director of VCF.
And Ray, are you on?
Yeah, just trying to figure out how to unmute my mute button. Anyway, Ray, Director.
Okay, thanks, Ray. And do we have any members of the public online tonight?
Not that I'm aware of. Gordon.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to start by asking for a motion to accept the agenda, which I think everyone has. Are there any additions to the agenda as brought forward?
Gordon, are you starting with the Belmont Community Forest?
Yes, this is the Belmont
First.
Community Forest meeting. There will be two meetings tonight, the Belmont Community Forest and the Belmont Industrial Park. So could I have a motion to accept the agenda?
Ray's waving his hand.
Okay. I don't have a picture of Ray on mine.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
I think Vern
Um,
was waving his hand too.
Yeah, second, Vern Mickelson. All in favor? Okay, I think it's accepted as moved. And the next item is adoption of minutes, but since this is the first information meeting, there are no minutes from previous meetings. And I presume everyone has seen or has a copy of the financial reports for 2020. Are there any questions about the financials?
Yeah, Gordon, it's Owen here if I can. So the four sets of financials, one for the VIP, one for the VCF, and then the two limited partnerships, was that just because there was a bit of a delay between sort of July, February of having the two companies and then the limited liability signed?
It's because that there are four companies and they have to have independent financials done.
Thank you.
I guess Owen, it's Craig here. Hey, the goal was to start running just the LP companies for operations. But there was a lag there. There's a lot of the bigger companies had a hard time figuring out that we were actually changing our name, and also some legal issues, like from Trans Mountain, for example, because the Belmont Community Forest Company Limited still owns the VIP, so they keep sending checks to the old company, the Company Limited. So there's some of that going through. I think we have it pretty much all figured out now, though. So hopefully, going forward, the financials for the BCF Company Limited will look like the VIP Company Limited, which doesn't show a whole lot. It's very, very basic because there's really nothing happening in those companies. So that's the goal. It just took a little bit to get there.
Thank you. From council. Thanks, Gordon.
Okay, do you have any other comments or questions?
None from us, no.
Okay. Craig, could we get a brief overview from you from what's been going on with the Belmont Community Forest?
Yes, you betcha. Do we have to get a motion to approve the financials from the village council, or how does that work? or we just do it as a board? I
No,
believe?
no, we approve those.
Yeah,
This is
Okay.
an information meeting.
makes sense. Okay, sure. So here's a brief overview of the Belmont Community Forest for 2020. So as of January 1st, 2019, we divided into 2 operating companies. I'm just going to go through some basics just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Both companies are limited partnerships. The new companies separate the forest activities and the industrial lands. So all the work's not quite complete, but we're inching closer to completion, and we're hoping the working group can figure out the remaining very few issues. So the 2020 financials, we had a total revenue of 10.2 million, total expense of 9.1, and a total net earnings of 1.99 million, which is pretty good. We had a good year. So in comparison, the net earnings for 2019 was 129,940. So a real big difference. Falling markets, poor weather conditions, the loss of Canfor Vavenby and Interfor Adams Lake as wood purchasers had very negatively affected our business in 2019. And the market was poor, and it led to not a great year. In 2020, increasing markets, we logged more, and less expenditures led to an increased year end. So we had a real good year of 1.9 million. 1.9. No, that's wrong. 1.19 million. I'm sorry. Really good year. Typo. Sorry about that, everybody. So 2020 highlights. So the BCF has 2 community forests, a wood lot, and a small forest license. The original K2T has a cut of 48,000. K5Q has a cut of 47,000 meters a year. Our forest license has a cut of 2,300 meters a year. Operated in mainly in Carrier Lumber's operating areas. And our woodlot has a cut of 2,200 meters a year. So total cut of roughly 100,000 meters. So BCF harvested a total of roughly 100,000. We're pretty close during 2020 from both community forests and the forest license. We used generally we used 3 logging contractors, and they were all local. The VCF harvested just under 20,000 meters from its forest license. Most of this harvesting was directed at fire smarting the Belmont to Tijon kind of corridor. So in the very recent past, we completed forest inventories and LiDAR for all the BCF areas, as well as the woodlot. And the new information gives us modern and up-to-date information that allows us to make informed, responsible decisions. So now new investment will be directed towards our older plantations to ensure that they're growing at a rapid pace. We have to, the whole thing is basically like a farm. You have to keep everything growing properly, or else it all stops. So brushing and spacing will help maximize growth. This work will increase local employment and allow us to offer work at the times of the year that are generally quiet for those type people. The silviculture bunch, and they're really busy in the spring, summer, and then it kind of tails off in the fall. So we can try to keep them busier and keep them a longer working window. We purchased woodlot 277 in 2018, and we submitted a forest inventory management plan and a cutting permit. And we're hoping to have all the approvals this fall and harvest our first block in 2021. We're working towards that. We planted roughly 330,000 trees in 2020. In contrast, in 2021, we're planting right around the 500,000 mark. Just we logged more, so we're planting more generally. So in the past couple years, we've invested a bunch of money into the Dave Henry operating area. It was an old area that hadn't been touched in 20 some years, and the main access roads and all the infrastructure were falling apart, and not up to you couldn't drive a pickup there, no less drive a logging truck. So we installed a bridge at 9.2, blasted rock. We reestablished road back and completed surveys on 2 future bridges. Total cost of over 350,000. So we're going to build some more road this year and put another bridge in hopefully this year. So it all takes time. We're starting the same road reestablishment of the Yellow Jacket drainage in 2021. The spruce beetle that has damaged the Hugh Allen and ptarmigan may be headed towards the Yellow Jacket, kind of towards the Belmont area. So we need road access to be able to respond to that threat. We need to act quickly. So we need to get the roads up and ready to go. The Dave Henry's ready, and we need to get the Yellow Jacket ready. And it's probably going to be about a 1.5 year project, maybe 2 years when it's all said and done. So we're hoping the bugs hold off a little bit. We harvested 5 blocks identified as forest fire preparedness threats to the community in 2020, and these blocks were planted about a month ago successfully, I hope. So local contractors completing the vast majority of this work, including loggers, truck drivers, road builders, maintenance contractors, scalers, surveyors, tree planters, slashers, brushers, road block development contractors. We figured roughly 35 to 40 local contractors, so quite a few. This past winter, we harvested up the West Canoe, Westridge, Packsaddle, Swift Creek, and currently we're harvesting up the West Canoe and should be into the Packsaddle again within a week. So we're starting. Recreation. So generally, we're finding greater use of our operating areas just due to increased road quality. Our road systems are getting better and better, and we're seeing more use. We're extremely happy to see the 5 Mile recreation area doing so well. It's a great success story. Well done to Varda and all the people associated. The bike runs are drawing people from all over and are having a big impact on the tourism economy. We're happy to support them. The 5 Mile road fix, we had a slump this year, is underway and expected to be completed, I'm guessing within a week's time. We'll see exactly what happens, but that's the hope. This project is funded by a grant from NDIT with 30% of the cost covered by the BCF. So total project roughly is $70,000, and 21 of that will come directly from the BCF. And also Yora, we're working with Yora constantly and definitely support them as well. For staff, the VCF LP has a total of 4 full-time staff members. Betty Hardy has been with the VCF for the past 8 years at least, and controls the finances for the company. So she's done all the financials since I've been here. And with the increased activity industrial park and of our increased harvest operations within the past few years, we just needed more feet on the ground. And we have right now we have a very nice crew. loaded with experience, local knowledge, local commitment, and lots of energy. We're happy with that. So that's all I got, Gordon.
Okay, thanks, Craig.
Is there any questions for the council or staff?
Council?
I'd like to know how the new mill's coming along.
We'll cover that under the VIP. It's actually a VIP mill, not a VCF mill.
All right.
Yeah, there are 2 meetings tonight.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
A good point there about all that road construction and reclamation work that we've done on the local roads and the increased tourist or the increased use on traffic is actually making Belmont more attractive destination, is it not?
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to say with this COVID world. Everybody's kind of staying local, but it sure seems like the local recreation, just the numbers seem to be going up and up. I don't know, just for me, what I'm seeing.
We'll see an influx come July 1st. We saw it at May 25th when step 2 came into being. I jokingly emailed Mayor Christian out of Kamloops, Mayor Schultz out of Revelstoke, and I asked if they had anybody left in their town between the ages of 24 and 36, and I thought, no, because they're all here. So yeah, definitely a backcountry mecca here.
Nice. Yeah. It's
A
busy.
couple, if I can. Gordon, can I ask a couple questions?
Yes, go ahead.
So without Canfor and Vavenby, where's the appraisal out of now for stumpage?
You mean like the nearest mill appraisal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Vavenby is still considered an appraisal point. So right now, everything from the Holmes River north goes to Prince George, and from the Holmes south or southeast, whatever you want to call it, goes to Vavenby. From what I understand, they're disassembling the Vavenby mill, so that line will change and it'll go. I believe it'll go to Kamloops then. I don't think the barrier mill is big enough, either of them. So I'm sure it'll go to Kamloops. That's my guess anyway.
And then for your, following your fire smarting activities, what did you replant with?
All the blocks basically on the sandy flats. Really, the only thing you can plant is pine. That's pretty much all will grow there. We had one block a little bit above on some different soils, but some little bit better soils. So we planted a mixed bag in there for pine, spruce, maybe some cedar too. And one block we didn't plant at all because we're trying to get it. There was a ton of aspen in the block. It was right along Blackman Road and bordering the railroad tracks. So we kind of figured that was a real high fire potential area. So we're working at getting on being able to just leave it alone, and then some pine will naturally come in, and then the aspen will sprout up, and that'll be a much better future barrier to fire. So that's kind of how we proceeded.
That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Owen. So from the board of directors, over the last few months, we've been reviewing and updating our policies to improve our governance and our communication with the public and our partner and shareholder, the Village of Valemount. So that leads us to the working group, and we would like to get it established and get started on basically increasing our cooperation and communication with the village in how the board is made up and the future opportunities for helping each other out. So if we could get your working group members established, then we'd appreciate being able to get started on that process.
Yeah, Gordon, we won't be able to establish that tonight. It'll have to come to council
Yes.
at a future meeting, but certainly we can get a staff report coming to us.
Yes. Okay. So, Owen, could we have a few words from you in regard to this meeting?
Yeah. It's just been a real treat to see what a decrease from 300,000 meters in an annual cut in the late 90s and early 2000s down to 33 and a half and back up to 95 can really do for a local economy. The fact that you're putting 35 to 40 local high-paying employment back into the bush through silviculture and harvesting and transportation, it's just outstanding. And the vision for keeping it at a sustainable cut is to be commended, and that's my words or the message from the shareholder this evening.
Okay, thank you, Owen. Is there any other questions about any of our subjects tonight?
Council? Nothing further from our end, Gordon.
Okay, then I would like a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Ray's waving his hand.
Okay, and we only need one to adjourn. So we'll carry on to the Valemount Industrial Park information meeting. So since we've already done our welcome and introduction, we'll go to the adoption of agenda. Did you all receive the industrial park agenda?
Yes, we have.
Okay. I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, unless there's any amendments. Okay, Vern and
Ray.
Ray. Okay. So there's just some information on the agenda about the shareholders agreement and limited partnership agreement referring to this meeting and the frequency of meetings. That's mostly for information. So this is in the same category. There is no previous meeting, so there's no previous minutes. And there's financial reports for the Valemount Industrial Park. Is there any questions about the financial reports for the industrial park?
Questions? Industrial park?
Yeah.
None from our end, Gordon.
Okay. Okay, then Craig, could we have your update on the industrial park?
Okay, so the financials are looking pretty good. We had a total revenue of 558,000, total expense of 252,000, and a total net earning of 395,000. So it's done okay. It's a little biased because of Trans Mountains there, and there's been a bunch of investment in different things. But it's doing okay and holding its own. So the industrial park is an old site, and all when we got it, pretty much every bit of infrastructure was shot and needed upgrading. So we've been investing steadily into the future. The hydro system is in actually pretty good shape now. It's in really good shape actually. So it's steady. The next is the water system. That's needing some major investment. I'll get into that in a bit here. 2020 highlights. The new Cedar Valley Holding shingle and post and rail mill is running basically at full production and shows great promise. The employment rose from 4 to 10 to 15 steady employees, and just a steady stream of activity there. So it's working. We have a fiber agreement with them, and for the first time in their history, they've had a solid supply of fiber. So there's definitely been a few bumps in the road. I think this year we're going to get those figured out. It was a new deal, and we're all learning, right, what needs to happen, and I think we're on the right track, and I think they're happy, and I think we're happy, and we're moving forward. So as of June 2021, there were 14 leaseholders on the VIP industrial lands. Trans Mountain, Dunkley, Cedar Valley Holdings Limited, Remcan, some Trans Mountain Fallers rent a small area of a building just for storage and drying of their equipment. Robson Design is new. That's Andreas Torney, and they do all kinds of stuff. BC Stone, they're just really getting going now. Looks good what they're doing. Treasures of the Forest, they basically are following Cedar Valley in there, and they use the wood that Cedar Valley doesn't use. So it's what we're hoping would happen, is kind of industry creates industry. TELUS is there. They're going to build a cell tower in the fall. It's ordered. All the documents are signed. They're not quite there yet, I guess, but they'll be here soon, we hope. Sim First Nation is leasing 8 acres and the scales. So they're running the kind of the waste wood yard. Robson Valley Gourmet Mushrooms, they've been doing okay. They're doing all right, steadily improving. The veggie container, that's new from the learning center. So that's up and running, and there's vegetables growing in it. So, which is pretty cool actually. So we have we're actually, I think we're all looking forward to watching it progress. The VCF LP, so the VCF, because it's 2 companies now, the VCF leases the scales, the office, the scale yard, and a maintenance yard. So we have a lease agreement with the VIP as well. And newly, we just signed a deal to supply West Fraser with some wood, and they're going to lease, I'm not sure, we haven't figured that out yet, but at least 3 acres in the yard and run it as a reload. So it's busy. Pretty much all the big chunks of area in the yard are taken up. All that's left are the kind of the troublesome spots, or the small areas, or that we're working on to figure out. So in partnership with Trans Mountain, we have fiber optics in the yard, and we'll be hooked up to the VC office in the fall of 2021. So the deal we have is that when TELUS puts their tower in, they need fiber optics for that tower. So, and we already have the poles. We've already put them up, and the office is ready. So they'll run the line to the office and then to their tower. So that's already set up, and that, with any luck at all, that should happen in the fall. Then we'll get really nice internet. We're working with Trans Mountain to reestablish the yard's firefighting reservoir. This reservoir will act as a hub for the fire protection for the yard. So they're on their own time, so we're waiting patiently, but I think it will go. The VCF utilizes the yard and scales this year as a reload yard and specialty wood decking area. We find it very useful to have cleanup loads brought into the yard that we can sort and sell to whomever, local markets or specialty markets, and it's we've done it for a couple of years, I guess, here, and it's actually working really well, and it's enough wood to keep everybody relatively satisfied, it seems. We'll improve on that as we get deeper into our mill and we have more capacity to do things at a cheaper cost. So we've been aggressively fighting knapweed, which is an invasive species that really dominated the whole industrial lands when we purchased the site. We've been working on it for, I don't even know, maybe 3 years. Janie's been heading that. Janie Weeks has been heading that. And we're very proud of that the weed is under control and that the grasses and other plant species are now flourishing. So we have an annual plan to monitor it and take action when needed. We're seeing it. There's bits and pieces where it's coming up, and I guess the seed stays in the ground for many years. So we'll have it'll be continuous work to keep it under control. But it's a good project, and I think we're winning. So we're continuing to research ways to deal with our waste fiber in the area. This issue has been holding us back from setting up more manufacturing in the yard. And currently it's a major cost to haul to large centers. So this is one of the reasons why there hasn't been any real mill development in Belmont for a bunch of years. And why Howard Brothers, one of the reasons anyway, why Howard Brothers had to go down. Because it just, you can't afford, it won't even pay the trucking to ship waste fiber from Belmont to either Prince George or to Kamloops. It just doesn't pay. So anything you do before that is just a dead cost. So no one could ever do it. So that was one of our priorities. So we needed the mill. We needed a mill in Belmont to be in operation to create the waste, to actually try to track a fiber industry. This is why we went to the VIP mill. So, and then we'll have we'll have wood waste from our yard, from our VIP mill, as well as from the Cedar Valley Holdings mill. So we'll have a pretty substantial amount of waste. So then we can actually talk to people about potentially setting up in our yard. So, but we had to get that, because it's just, when we talked to a bunch of people about it, and it's not economical to set up something in Belmont without it, because you'd have to rely on just logs. And it just doesn't work. It's not. Every pellet plant, every cogen is sitting right next to a super mill. And there's a reason for that. So we're working on that. So what we thought is the VIP mill would definitely help. So the VIP mill is probably 95% complete. What we're held back on now is getting hooked up to the BC Hydro grid. So we have a permit with BC Hydro, and they have committed to hooking us up by July 4th at the latest. So at that point, we'll start testing it and really see what happens. The mill's been in work and under construction since pretty much a year, from May. Sometime in May we started, 2020. And it took us about a year, and we're just about there. So the mill production will start slowly as we test equipment. When running at full capacity, we expect roughly 10 people to start at full capacity, and then we go from there, right? We can ramp up, or we can do different things from there, right? But we got to get it going, and then see what happens. The mill is at this point is a cant and timber mill that produces chips from the wood waste. So yeah, we've been working hard for over a year of construction, and probably a year of research before that. So it's yeah, everybody's excited, everybody's impatient, and we just want it to start right now, but we have to wait a little bit more, I guess. For staff, so the VIP LP is managed by the VCF board of directors and staff. So it doesn't have a manager yet, or a board of directors. And that may change someday, but right now that's how we're operating. The VIP has 2 direct staff members that are full-time employment. And they've been working to help construct the mill, which is going to be a major benefit when the mill actually starts, because they'll understand it. And the 2 are Samantha Piper and Darren Battensby, both with mill experience, and yeah, been really good finds for us. Really happy with that. In closing, we last but not least, we've hired Claudia Frost. She's been contracted as a contractor to complete the financials for the company. So she's taken over from Betty the VIP finances. It was just, we were getting big enough that we decided Betty could continue with the VCF, and we get Claudia with the VIP. And so far we've been running a month or so, and it's been working great so far. So all good. That's what I have. Is there any questions? More questions about mill, or?
Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, just a quick question. To it earlier too, what was going to be involved in upgrading the water system. I'm just wondering if you had a little more detail on what was required for the water system upgrade out there.
Well, there's the reservoir behind the office, and it has 330,000 gallons. The liner is just old and rotten. It's full of holes. So we have to replace the liner, and then we can fill it with our, we have a well system down by the tracks behind the office, and that there's a line that comes up to the reservoir. So we can fill it with that, and it'll just trickle, because it's a smaller well, or a smaller pump, I guess, in the well. I think we can actually make it bigger, but it's right now it'll work. It'll just trickle. It'll take a while to fill it, but it'll do the job. From the reservoir, there's actually a pipe that goes under the ground, that goes underneath the main access road from the office to the cedar mill, and it comes up to the old Slocan pump house area. So that's still existing. So we've cleaned out that pump house. It's still kind of in rough shape, but we've cleaned it out. And at some point, we haven't done it yet because we need the reservoir, and we're spending lots of money on the mill, so we didn't need it yet. But when the reservoir is up, we can put a pump, or maybe 2 pumps as a backup, into that into the old pump house, the old Slocan pump house, and then we can use that to act as a hub for the rest of the yard. So that's the firefighting part of it. We already have a line that goes from the office to the cedar mill and to the scales, but the line's small, and it's not enough for fire water. You need a real big volume, but it's fine for what the cedar mill needs, and it's fine for the scales. So that's that part of it. We actually did some research, and we think we have some water out by the mill, and the mill needs water as well. And we're trying to figure out how to get water all the way over there. So we witched it. We got Bob Weeks out there, who's he was a bit of a genius in his own way, and we found water in 2 spots there. And traditionally, I believe, I got to do some more research, but it doesn't sound like the Cedar Side water is that deep. So at some point we might bring a hoe in and try to figure out if we have water there, because it would definitely help if we could keep the mill on its own water source, and then the rest of the yard would be on the old traditional source. So we're still, it's still a work in progress, but we have some ideas, and we're definitely, we need to start doing something this year, because we're so busy now. We need firefighting protection, and what we have now is Jason's got his own tank on the truck, and we have 2. I'm not even sure how big they are. 5, I think they're bigger than 500-gallon tanks. They're on wheels and they have pumps, and we can grab them with our loaders and pull them to where we need them. So we do have some firefighting protection, and we're also in the Belmont local fire protection area. So yeah, to make a long story short, we're working on it. We have some ideas, and we have some infrastructure there, and we need to get on it, and we will this summer.
Did you have a follow-up, Councilor?
No, I'm good.
Councilor Blanchett?
So kudos on the mill. Sounds like you're just about there. I'm just wondering if BC Hydro hooks you guys up for July 4th. Are you going to be hiring over the summer, or is it going to be more of a fall hiring?
Well, we have our 2 employees, and we have some millwrights over there still, and some electricians. So I think we're gonna play it real baby steps. We're gonna see how everything works. We're gonna, start turning stuff on, playing with it, see what happens. And yeah, definitely at some point, I certainly hope by the fall we'll be hiring people and yeah, starting to produce, because we need to hit this market, which is beautiful right now. And we need and want to get the ball rolling here. So I'm trying to go baby steps. I'm trying not to be overly optimistic. When it's ready to turn on full steam, we're going to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a follow-up? Just a comment, Craig. It may seem right now that, Trans Mountain could be viewed as just a temporary increase on your financials. Last year, this year, the pace that they're moving, maybe many more. But it's the land development that they've completed on the industrial park that will have that legacy and a benefit for generations. So really kudos to you and the board for realizing that potential and for negotiating with them. I did see the ad for the mill manager in the paper, and I'm actually not shocked you haven't found anybody. I mean, it's a position that's so vast and yet so specific of a skill set that, I mean, you're looking for a Larry Simpson of the world. So yeah, just awesome that 14 tenants in such a short time, a lot of infrastructure upgrades. So right on.
Thanks, Owen. Yeah, it's coming. We're happy with the progress, but we're starting to fall behind, but we're happy. It's a good problem. Good problems to have, right?
Okay, thank you, Craig. Is there any more questions? Okay, I would just like to thank Craig from the board for all his work in planning and the multitude of details involved in day-to-day and season-to-season operation. We're very lucky to have such a skilled and competent manager in our employ. Thank you, Craig. So from the board, we would like the same thing with the VIP as with the Belmont Community Forest. basically to get our working group going and increase our cooperation. In the past, when there's been a larger mill operating in this area, it's always been owned by somebody from far away. And a lot of the decisions have been made without reference to local conditions and local needs. So personally, I'm really glad to see the community forest able to take charge of management along with the village being the owner, so that decisions can be made here so they're suitable to the conditions. Okay, Owen, would you like to speak to the Valemount Industrial Park?
Yeah, thanks, Gordon. And I couldn't agree more with the having that local ownership versus that, what was typical to be owned by distanced companies. We're not finally, it's taken some time, but we are now realizing the vision that was conceptualized in 2014 by the board of the day, seeing increased tenants and economic opportunities on industrial lands outside of the village where they really need to be. And kudos to staff and to the board. Those 240 acres were purchased in pretty much a disarray conditions from an infrastructure standpoint, invasive species. Cedarside was just riddled with knapweed no more than 10 years ago, and the steps taken by Janie and her team, just hats off to that. To the point where even my dad's place is, we can actually keep up to it now. So well done, Janie, and well done, Craig, and our thanks to the board.
Okay, thank you, Owen. Is there any more questions from council or from anyone else?
Nothing from council, Gordon.
Okay, so could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting then? Vern. Okay, thank you all for attending, and hopefully we'll repeat this semi-annually.
Looking forward to it, Gordon. Thank you for presenting both companies this evening, and have a great week.
Okay, thank you, Owen.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, council, for some patience tonight while I was waiting for my agenda. That being said, we'll now call the June 22nd regular meeting of council to order. 7:58. So first item on the agenda is 2.1, adoption of this evening's agenda. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, any additions? Hearing none, all in favor? Nobody wants to add anything?
One day.
Item 3. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Item 3.1, adoption of the minutes of the June 18th, 2021 regular meeting of council as presented. Councillor McLean, Councillor Blanchette, any errors or omissions arising? All in favor? Carried. We do have a couple of delegations under section 4 this evening. And it's first one under 4.1. We have Stormy Lake Consulting giving us a rundown on Tourism Valemount governance structure.
Okay, was that our lead in?
That's your lead in. The floor is yours, good sir.
Thank you very much. So my name is Philip Coppard and my colleague Ray Freeman is joining us. And we're very pleased to share with you the results of some work we've been doing over the last few months with the community, looking into tourism and tourism strategy. And one of the key elements of that was recommendations around the most constructive and useful governance looking forward. So I'm going to let Ray run you through a few thoughts and then we can have a discussion.
Great, thank you, Philip. I'm just going to share my screen here. Great. Well, Mayor and Council, thank you for your time this evening. One of the priority actions of the whole update in the strategic plan and activities was to look at and analyze options for the governance functions for the Tourism Valemount activities. And priority was to establish what we call a high functioning marketing position. And this is designed to really be dedicated and focused on tourism. Some of the key feedback and issues or questions that were arised were the need to have some autonomy to meet the needs of the tourism industry, businesses and stakeholders in the community, and have this accountable and reliable to a governing board of directors. However, it also needs to really maintain strong lines of communication with council. There's a long history of the committee of council operating the tourism function there. But we've gone through a bit of an exploratory process to show best practices in the current situations and moving forward. So here's a little bit of a quick overview of the functions of a destination management organization. And I use the word management because the intention here is to have a more comprehensive look beyond just advertising, just marketing and promotion. Marketing is usually the first thing we think about. It actually starts in the bottom corner and generally goes clockwise. So we need to have good leadership, coordination and collaboration. And that leadership would then focus on understanding the market opportunity or challenges, the uniqueness of the situation in Valemount, what the market research is, and anticipating where the puck is going, so to speak. What's our trends, what's our opportunities? And of course, in the last 18 months or so, things have been a little bit unclear, but we know that tourism is going to be coming back quite strongly, particularly for the types of experiences that Valemount is known for. Product development is really about improving the quality of the tourism experience for our targeted visitors. And then, of course, getting the word out through the network. And the network is quite powerful. We can have Tourism Valemount working collectively with the regional destination management organizations who are then the channel to the province through Destination BC and then ultimately Destination Canada to our international visitors. So a small independent business operator in Valemount has global reach using this network. Partnerships and team building, really it's about collaboration and building sort of equity together. And then the community, the concerns of the community, the needs of the community need to be reflected in any strategy roles. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. So this is sort of the functional areas of the DMO, really into the marketing, communications, trying to develop media events, using those channels like travel and lifestyle media and content marketing, enhancing visitor services to make sure that we are not only anticipating what visitors need, but helping to capture their attention, secure their bookings, and then deliver their services that they require for information when they're on the ground in the community. Industry development, so that's building capacity for the businesses, because many of them, some of them are startups and may not have experience, that community engagement activities. And then the bottom one, really, destination management. So it's all about economic sustainability, supporting our businesses, supporting the community and our community partners, and environmental impacts. And those need to be weaved into sort of every decision that we make. The other piece here to understand is having an empathetic view of all of the worldviews of each of our stakeholder partners. So if we look in the bottom left-hand corner, we understand what the municipality delivers and focuses on. Tourism is a piece which has been integrated into the community for many years now. But if you pop over to the accommodation side there, some of those providers may have decisions that are made elsewhere, and we need to do a pretty good sales job to help them, the powers that be, maybe if head office of a hotel is in Chicago, to understand what's happening in Valemount and why that hotel needs to be engaged at the community level. Same thing, all of what the industry needs in terms of product development. And then the whole holistic piece of destination management, there's a whole bunch of pieces there which require, a strong tourism leader and their team to integrate and have a holistic view beyond just marketing, but building the capacity that we need to get high yield, but also ensure quality visitor experiences. Some of the considerations here that started off this governance process. So, we looked at the Committee of Council and understood that, there's some efficiencies, there's some supports there. There's a strong municipal team that's been delivering tourism services for a number of years. There's some good sort of experience and equity there. Going back to the Valemount Vision in 2004, they were recommending a non-government organization to deliver. And, we're kind of at a crossroads now where there's interest in the potential of an independent destination management organization. But the question is there sufficient support from the community, from the tourism industry stakeholders to actually undertake that implementation and transition from the Committee of Council? Back in 2017, the Tourism Industry Association of BC put forth a position on governance that a DMO should be governed by a board with local government representation. The organization requires tourism expertise to deliver. They should be structured as nonprofits, and the society or the board supports management, but also calls to task management on what they do. The board would hire the executive director or CEO and make sure that they perform against measurable deliverables. So this is the lead or the guidance from the TAIA BC, and this is best practice of what most DMOs are doing in British Columbia now. We did some peer analysis, and for tonight, I've distilled it down to these two examples. Destination Soyuz is probably one of the best or closest examples to look at of a destination management organization that has a similar size. They are a resort municipality. They are reflective of the diversity of experiences that Valemount has. There are some similarities in Soyuz, and we felt that the terms of references that they use and the way they operate their board would be would provide good guidance in a direction that Valemount may want to follow. Their terms of reference and a lot of that information is available online. And I haven't spoken with the CEO of Destination Soyuz, but I know her well, and I'm sure she'd be very approachable and provide some great feedback on her experiences there. Should the Glacier Destination Resort look viable and look like it might be developed, then another example that we looked at closely was Tourism Sun Peaks, because looking at the current geopolitical boundaries of the municipality of the village, they're currently constrained under the Committee of Council, and even going to an independent DMO, that would probably provide the flexibility to accommodate. But the resort-focused DMO that Tourism Sun Peaks provides is another sort of map that we could follow in that direction. So there's some flexibility there. There's some guidance here. These are sort of the best models that we came up with, and we delved into those in fairly good detail. We've got some SWOT analysis. I will just hit a few highlights here. As I said, the municipal employees delivering tourism services they're known. They've been working relatively well. They understand tourism. They have a strong team. There's a comfort level there. You know what you're getting, and they continue to have strong results even through the pandemic. There are some opportunities there to learn from others. We can build some capacity. There are some potential weaknesses, though. Can the village effectively reflect the needs and concerns of tourism businesses and stakeholders? Can the Committee of Council, respond in an efficient way, an effective way, in a timely way? The other issue here is that the Committee of Council was intended to be a temporary structure. So that's another sort of bylaw issue that needs to be addressed. The other thing is, if we look at some of the threats, we get a new municipal election going on, changes in leadership, different priorities and focus. It could disrupt the continuity of tourism deliverables versus having an independent organization where the municipality can continue to influence and provide a voice for the municipal perspective, but that there can be some political disruption there. The independent DMO, as we said, it follows best practices. It fulfills the requirements that the village requires, and it also can provide some more in-depth focused expertise by having a management team and who are experienced more specifically in tourism. The opportunities, you can start from scratch and create this new organization that really fits the needs of Valemount. And it can be potentially more effective in actually building capacity and building tourism. Weakness, of course, is that it can take anywhere from a minimum of 1 up to about 3 years to do a transition. And there's some additional overhead involved. So sustainable funding is going to have to be anticipated and determined. Threats: the biggest threat is hiring the wrong manager. I think that's a situation that occurs regardless of whether it's an independent DMO or even, Silvio's been doing a fantastic job from what we hear and see from other people. But, if he decided to retire and somebody else came in, maybe the wrong manager comes in. So it can go either way. So there's a bit of a SWOT analysis between both of them. There's a couple of things here to consider from our perspective as consultants. Trust is probably the most important thing, and trust is through leadership, collaboration, empathy, and having the right leader is going to be necessary. Hiring the right person to facilitate that trust is going to be the critical key step. Understanding the decision drivers, the worldviews, the needs of each of the community stakeholders for tourism. And the great thing about having an effective leader is they can draw investment, they can attract talent, they can herd the cats, so to speak, and get people on board to collaborate and pool resources. The other piece here is that the board governance is absolutely critical. Following detailed terms of reference, calling the managing director to task, having good board oversight in performance is going to be critical. Following Robert's rules of meetings, things like that. Discipline for that way. And then the other piece, which leads back to sustainability, is understanding that the world has changed in the world of tourism marketing, and it's much more about management. It's about listening to the community, understanding their concerns about over tourism and people who don't respect the community, trying to share their voice, share their passion for their community, and share that with visitors, and try to help visitors gain an appreciation for what is distinct and unique about the community. So our key recommendation, our priority option, is to recommend pursuing an independent destination management organization model. This aligns with best practices. There is a caveat though, and the main challenge here is going to ensure that we have sufficient interest and support from tourism stakeholders to provide that time investment into supporting the development of a new independent DMO. And that's going to be the key. If that sufficient support doesn't happen, then our backup option is to adapt the current model, to try to be, take the committee of council and act on sort of the concerns that have been raised about reflecting the voice of tourism and timely responses. So that's the big sort of backup plan there. But as we said, the committee of council is designed to be a temporary solution. So in an ideal scenario is to work towards an independent DMO. So how would we do that? Well, to set up a DMO, we would have a transition over time rather than just sort of full stop, to evolve from the committee of council model, supporting independence and good governance, but maintaining a very strong relationship with council. There are different models, the stakeholder model, membership models, there's other types of models. In this case, we believe that looking at comparables across the province, the stakeholder model is the best course of action, looking at the composition of the types of stakeholders in tourism businesses in the community. Essentially, any business that is involved with the tourism economy, that could be the gas station, the grocery store, the tire shop that repairs RVs, anything like that, they could become a stakeholder. No annual fees up front, and they would get a core set of benefits. The more tourism focused businesses, those that play more strongly in the tourism economy, would have the opportunity to pay to play. So essentially that's value added pay-per-play participation in trade shows, conferences, visitor guides, collaborative content marketing. They would be using the network channels through Destination British Columbia, Caribou Chilcotin Coast Tourism Association, Mountain Bike Tourism Association, Thompson Okanagan, and so forth. So that is the model. Looking at sustainable and secure funding, most funding options are actually available within the current Committee of Council and Municipal model. The potential new sources can be transitioned. We may have further access, additional access to some additional funding options or deeper pockets, having a more focused independent DMO. And the only one on there which really would be, other than new money from existing pools, any sort of the new pool option would be nonprofit, because it would be a nonprofit organization. So there are some options that would be available there to help balance out the additional overhead required to create the independent DMO. So this is my last slide, by the way. So this is a little bit more detailed. I won't go into too much on this, but I'll give you an overview of what a transition to an independent DMO governance model would look like. So for once the decision is made to move forward on going to an independent DMO, we would form a transition steering committee with support of the Committee of Council, identify the new terms of reference for the organization and governance activities, get an overview strategy, and so forth, and then form a hiring committee and start to search for a new CMO, CEO, or managing director, executive director. Take some time, find the right person, hire them, and bring them on board. Hold them to task on performance measures, support them in what they require, and then have this person initiate the development of the new nonprofit society process, creating the bylaws and so forth, and starting to develop the new governance model draft framework, get into more detail on all of the nuts and bolts, starting to expand the tourism team, and then probably at no sooner than about 12 months out, begin actually transitioning into the independent DMO. It may take longer depending on how long it takes to find that correct candidate to lead the organization. So really, 1 to 2 years, time to transition, transfer knowledge and skills, get comfortable with that, keep the lines of communication going for the terms of reference, build the leadership and build capacity. And then, I would really envision that, a new CEO with an independent DMO organization would be more focused on leveraging programs and resources from the regional destination management organizations and the province. So there's a bit of an overview on the timeline. And I'd like to open it up to questions. Philip, did you want to sort of add any summary comments to that?
Not much room to add there, Ray. That was great. Thank you.
Okay.
Are you going to de-share your slides?
Yeah, thanks very much. If we just have you not share your slide any longer, we can have a face-to-face.
There we go.
Awesome.
Ta-da.
Motion to receive delegation. Councillor Pearson, Councillor McLean, any questions for the delegation? Comments? Councillor Blanchette.
Just wanted to thank you both. We've been going over this with you for several months now, and it's really great to finally see it come together and how it's going to look. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, just likewise to both Phil and Ray and the rest of your team. Excuse me. Thanks for the work you put in. I mean, it's been quite the journey going through all of this, and it's kind of nice to see light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you for the work.
Thank you.
Anything further? I was really appreciative of your opening remark. Be where the puck is going to be, not where it's been. Nice little reference to the great one. So thanks for that. I suspect this presentation is available to council. The orange on white was a bit challenging to see on the first couple of slides.
I will note
PowerPoint.
that.
It could be our monitor too. And then a question about going towards that more independent DMO. Right now, everything is supported financially through bylaw. We have a hotel room tax that is set at 2%. Funds from each of the operators are forwarded to the province and then over to the municipality to be distributed within a budgeted amount through Tourism Valemount. Is that what an overall independent governance, is that something that would continue on in your mind?
Yes, and the difference is in that the DMO would take care of the reporting and all of those other elements, but the funding still has to flow through the municipality to qualify for those, the RMI and MRDT.
Thank you for that. My curiosity is satisfied. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to present this evening. I found the presentation enlightening. There are certainly a couple of paths that we can go down moving forward. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And if I could offer a final thought, you have a phenomenal product and experiences that will appeal to a wide range of people. I think getting really well organized to be ahead of the growth that's coming would be in your best interest.
Well, that being said, if you could just whip out your crystal ball for us, when do you see international travel pick back up again?
Well, my crystal ball says we'll see US travel start to pick up through the summer, but international is going to be later on in the fall. I think there's a few more vaccine things that need to get sorted out internationally before that happens, but everything's moving a little bit quicker than we expected. So I'd hesitate to say next year for international traveler. I think it's going to come a bit earlier than that.
Excellent. Thank you very much again for your time and and for your expertise this evening.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Have a good evening.
Okay, good night.
All in favor of receipt? Carried. Under 4.2, we do have another delegation from Mr. Derek Shaw on behalf of the Valemount Secondary School, who presenting tonight to council for a Pride crosswalk on Ash Street. Mr. Shaw. He was there.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. It's the first, you're on mute, so I found it. See this?
Okay. So good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for accepting our request to make this presentation to you tonight. I'm sure that you're aware that June has been designated as Pride Month. Recently, the well-known rainbow flag representative of the sexual orientation and gender identity community, also known as SOGI, has been altered in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement to include black to represent diversity, brown to represent inclusivity of the Indigenous community, and light blue and white, the colors borrowed from the transgendered pride flag. Tonight, we ask that the Village of Valemount consider installing a crosswalk on Ash Street near Valemount Secondary School that would indicate to all those coming to our school community that Valemount not only welcomes diversity and inclusivity, but we embrace it and celebrate it. By working with us to create such a crosswalk, where currently none exists at all, I believe this project would be a symbol of the town's commitment to being a diverse and inclusive community that strives to make everyone feel safe and welcome. In preparation for tonight's meeting, I learned a lot about crosswalks and some of the things that make some of them different from others. I've learned that there is a very long list of municipalities and cities that have now embraced this type of project as a symbol of support for everyone, more so than the creation of a safe crossing place. While a diversity and inclusivity crosswalk would certainly provide a designated place for pedestrians to cross, not all the crosswalks meet the standards set out in the world of transportation regulations. Some of the early Pride crosswalks in several communities certainly do not, based on the layout and the materials that were used to create the designs. I wanted to know more, so I contacted Yellowhead Pavement Markings Incorporated, who were recently here resurfacing the existing crosswalks in our town. I learned that there is a special paint that is required, methyl methacrylate, or MMA durable, that does meet the required specifications for Department of Transportation use. I learned that it is also very expensive compared to the painting of a regular crosswalk. I was told that an average 2-lane street crossing would cost approximately $400 to paint, where a crosswalk with 11 colors, as we're asking for, would be in the ballpark of closer to $4,000 to create. The difference in the cost primarily due to the different paint and a lot more labor in the layout times. I learned that the lifespan of a material on such a crossing depends on many factors, but it would be reasonable to expect it needing to be repainted every 5 years. The maintenance of the material is not a factor, but as any highway paint, it will be subject to wearing and fading. I searched for a long time trying to find some data on crosswalk safety. I wanted to know if there are any differences in multicolored crossings versus a normal one. I contacted ICBC, but they do not have any such data. I did find a 2015 study that was done in the Old Strathcona area of Edmonton. They did a trial of numerous Pride crosswalks in that section of town, and cameras were installed to observe how drivers responded. What I read was that there was an improvement in the number of drivers who stopped prior to the crossing at the Pride crosswalks versus the regular white ones. The cameras showed that drivers still stopped close to the same frequency, but more drivers were actually stopped in the crossing of a regular crosswalk. There were no recorded accidents involving a pedestrian in a Pride crosswalk during that study. So as I shared earlier, I did reach out to ICBC, and I actually got to speak with Ingrid Barkop. She is the road safety community coordinator for the North Central area, which does include Valemount. She told me that I could let you know that she and ICBC were very supportive of the village creating such a crossing to promote inclusivity and diversity. She made sure that I understood that not all Pride crosswalks we see in all towns meet the standards of a safe crosswalk, but that is not always the #1 reason for their creation. She offered the services of a road safety engineer should we want to proceed with this project, and also recommended that we contact David Dean for financial assistance through a road improvement program grant. So I think I've kind of used more than my own fair share of time here tonight, but before I open the floor for others here to make a few comments, in closing, I would like to say that I'm willing to do whatever I can to see this request become a reality on Ash Street. I know firsthand that inclusive environments are important. I know that all students need to feel safe, included, and empowered to learn. And that an inclusive environment will produce better outcomes, not just in a school setting, but in any organizational structure. A message of inclusivity can be sent verbally, with actions, or visually. And I ask that you, the Village of Valemount Council, seriously consider the request we place before you tonight for you to make your statement of support for diversity and inclusivity for all residents and visitors who come to our beautiful town to see and feel. I thank you for all your time and your attention. I'll open the floor up to some others who are now all of a sudden shy.
Hi, this is Keeper Dempsey here. I live on 3rd Avenue. I haven't prepared anything to say. I was surprised. I didn't actually realize I was going to be here today. So, but I'm in full support of the Pride Crosswalk. I think that this community could do with a statement to everyone that we include everyone. Everyone is welcome. And I know personally some people in the gay community in Belmont and who haven't always had good experiences. Some have and some haven't. I think this crosswalk would at least show that the community here welcome everyone equally. And that we accept everyone for who they are, regardless what they believe, their orientation, how they look. So I think it's an important statement to make. And I think that we're a little behind in other communities. There's loads of places, Prince George, Jasper, and many more that already have rainbow crosswalks for a long time. And I think it'd be beneficial for us to stand together with all these other communities and say that we have the same values, the same inclusions, and that when tourists come here, they can see that as a community, we're open and, welcoming to everyone. So that's why I think we should have something like this, and I think this proposal makes a lot of sense to me.
I am shorter.
Hello.
Hello.
There you go.
As a member of the LGBTQ+ community and as a student in Vermont Secondary, the addition of a rainbow crosswalk or a pride crosswalk would be very welcome for me, especially for somebody who doesn't have a lot of direct support at home. Having that kind of symbol for inclusivity, for me anyway, would be very important and very welcome for my life. And I know a lot of other people who would also be very accepting of it. It's a good way to show that despite maybe financial or physical barriers, we're all, we're all people, we're all diverse, and we're all unique. And having that, even that physical symbol, that physical representation, that people can look out to and maybe find some invisible support from, I feel like is really good and really beneficial. And I feel like it would help a lot of people. That's why I'm here. I wouldn't, if I wasn't here, if I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't be here today. I'd be home studying. But that's my 2 cents. Anyway, I'm just an 11th grader. What do I know?
And a very, very important 11th grader. Thank you, Alex. So that concludes. Is there any other comments from the gallery? No? Seeing no hands waving at me. I'm certainly willing to answer any questions anybody might have, or any directions or suggestions that you might send our way.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Shaw, for your presentation this evening, and the additional speakers. Really, really outstanding. Motion to receive the delegation. Councillor McLean, Councillor Pearson. Questions for the presenters this evening? Councillor Blanchette.
I'd just like to say thank you for doing the homework that you did, looking into the different possibilities, the different paints, the different everything. So thank you for doing that, because that saves us some questions.
Yeah, for sure. And Karen, I can forward you my notes if anybody wants to see those, or a link to the study of Edmonton too. There's a lot of information in that one.
Do you have a follow-up? Further questions?
Not a question so much. Yeah, it would be a comment, because I did notice back in the day of travel, we were in Ucluelet. Their two schools are side by side, and the main highway goes through it. And I think we counted 7 pride crosswalks through that stretch. So, yeah, definitely doable.
Excellent comment. What I can say tonight, Mr. Shaw, is that no decisions will be made from this delegation this evening. I would encourage your fact-finding mission find its way to senior staff here at the village, and so that they can put it into a fulsome report for council at a later date.
Certainly. Yeah, I'd just like to highlight too that to me, it's more than just a pride crosswalk. It's an inclusivity and diversity crosswalk. Much more than just a pride crosswalk. So.
And again, I can't thank you enough for the presentation this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All in favor of receipt? It's carried. Anything out of the reading file folks would like to raise? Councillor McLean.
I wanted to raise the City of Pitt Meadows letter regarding the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's call to action 75, where they have written a letter and shared it with us. They've written letters to their MPs asking that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's call to action number 75, where they call upon the federal government to work with provincial, territorial, and municipal governments, churches, Aboriginal communities, former residential school students, and current landowners to develop and implement strategies and procedures for the ongoing identification, documentation, maintenance, commemoration, and protection of residential school cemeteries or other sites at which residential school children were buried. This is to include the provision of appropriate memorial ceremonies and commemorative markers to honor the deceased children. I would like to move that we support Mayor Dingwall's letter and request the same of our MP.
Second. Councillor Blanchette. Discussion? I'd be happy to write that. Absolutely, without question. And I'm absolutely certain MP Zimmer would be ecstatic to receive it. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's carried. Anything further out of the ring file? Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, the letter from the Township of Spalumcheen regarding the BC Hydro residential rate review. And I would like for Belmont to support this, and I would move that we draft a similar letter to look at reopening the survey and extending the review.
Seconder? Councillor Blanchette, discussion? All in favor? Carried. That's 50% of the reading file. I mean, there'll be something else in there. Of course, the COVID-19, I'll just mention the COVID-19 restrictions. We're well into step 2 of the reopening based on vaccination rates, first and second, hospitalization rates, and daily case counts. As of yesterday, I didn't catch today's announcement, but as of yesterday, we were averaging a 3-day average of 78. So province-wide. And our vaccination rates for step 2 and step 3, which due out on July 1st, the vaccination rates were realized on June the 6th. So a lot of uptake. I know getting my second vaccination today, the community hall was extremely busy, especially around lunchtime. So yeah, looking forward to that July 1st target and hoping we can move safely into step 3. If there's nothing else in the reading file, administrative reports 8.1, that the Belmont 2020 annual report being received. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, discussion. Councillor Blanchette.
Wonderful, wonderful report. Thank you to everybody involved in that. It was fantastic and a very good report from you. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And thank you, and kudos to staff for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's carried. 8.2, we do have a couple of recommendations from the Clean Air Task Force and their meeting summary. First recommendation here is that the summary report for the Clean Air Task Force meeting of June 15th, 2021 be received for information. Councillor McLean, Councillor Pearson, any discussion on receipt? All in favor? It's carried. And another recommendation here that council supports the CATF's, spin that into a word somehow, CTAF, CAF, there we go, CATS. Development of a airshed management plan for the Van Mountain area. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor McLean, any discussion on support of an airshed management plan provided by council? All in favor? It's carried. 8.3, accounts payable report 2021. The report be received for May 2021 be received for information. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, any discussion? All in favor of receipt? It's carried. We do have some legislative financial statement of financial information to receive. And the recommendation here that the council approves that statement of financial information. Sophie, Councillor Pearson, Councillor McLean. Any discussion on approval? All in favor? It's carried. 8.5, paving of 17th Ave. Tonight, we need to award a contract, and there is a recommendation here that council direct staff to negotiate a contract with Dawson Construction Limited in the amount of $1,036,882.33 for the paving of 17th Ave, subject to the village receiving a funding agreement from Trans Mountain for the project. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor McLean, discussion. There was some additional works, 36,000 ish dollars. What was that?
Your worship, that was in order to replace any sections of the base of the road that might need to be replaced that we're unaware of at this time.
Oh, like substandard construction material.
Exactly.
Okay. Further discussion, questions? We're quite confident Trans Mountain will come through this time.
It has been, it's been made into a press release, so I would hope that they would stand behind what they stated they would do.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. All in favor? It's carried. 8.6, Airport Weather Station RFQ, awarding of contract. The recommendation here, the council award the Airport Weather Station contract to Code Project Enterprise Limited in the amount of $32,500 plus taxes. Councillor McLean, Councillor Blanchette, discussion. You'll see from the report that Code Mechanical did our fuel distribution upgrade, did some beautiful work out there. All in favor? Carried. 8.7, Centennial Park washroom demolition, awarding of contract this evening, and there's a recommendation that council award the Centennial Park washroom demolition contract to KRM Contracting 2000 Corp. In the amount of $7,500 plus taxes to be paid from the Tourism Dependent Community Fund. It's council's wish. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette. Any discussion? I thought with the amount of concrete leaving that site, 7,500 was a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Considering it can't stay here. All in favor? Carried. 8.8, Village of Valemount entrance sign maintenance. Request for quotes. Recommendation here that the report be received. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, discussion.
Frustrating.
Everyone's got work apparently. All in favor? It's carried. 8.9, portable changeable message sign, wording of contract. We have a couple of recommendations here. First recommendation, that council approves an increase to the portable changeable message sign budget from 18,000 to 21,000 from the COVID-19 Safe Restart Plan as originally approved by resolution number 4221. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion. Bit more than what was envisioned.
Not a lot though. It's not a lot.
No. Question for staff. Does it have a speed sign on it? i.e. you are doing this amount, or is it just changeable message board?
I believe this is just a changeable message board.
Yep. Thank
But
you.
it is, it's geared for highway traffic, whereas what we were originally looking for was up to a maximum of 70 kilometers an hour, which would have worked within the community, but it's a little bit more versatile.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's carried. Second recommendation here that council award the portable changeable message sign purchase to Adtronics Signs Limited in the amount of $19,250 plus taxes. Counselor McLean, Counselor Pearson. Any discussion on the awarding? All in favor? Carried. 8.10, 2021 Canada Day celebration. Fortunately, we do have a recommendation here that Canada Day celebrations be canceled for this year. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion. Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very difficult decision for the Tourism Belmont Committee to look at, but in light of current events and trying to run a fireworks display and limiting the crowd to 50 people and the logistics behind it, it was decided that this would be a time to just rest and try again later.
And reflect.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor? It's carried. 8.11, a purchase of an electric vehicle for bylaw enforcement. There is a couple of recommendations here. The first one being that staff procure a suitable electric vehicle for village use by utilizing the CAREP funding held by the village. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, discussion. Councillor Blanchette.
They gave us a lot of information. I think it's a great idea. It's an electric vehicle, so we have electric vehicles charging station. And I think that for 2021, it's a good time.
Yes, indeed. Councillor Pearson.
It will stand out in the community. It is a very unique looking vehicle. So
if it's that one.
If it's that one.
For sure.
Yeah. No, it's good.
Further discussion? All in favor? It's carried. I was thinking about getting one for the sand pit. There is another recommendation, council, that funding for a stationary electric message board be allocated towards the remaining balance of the cost of an electric vehicle, or that the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant be utilized towards the remaining balance of the electric vehicle. What is council's wish? Councillor Pearson.
I would move that we look at using the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant and maintain the funding for the stationary electronic sign at this time.
Is there a seconder? No second? Squashed. Is there another motion to be received? Councillor Blanchette.
I would move that the funding for the stationary electronic message board be reallocated towards the remaining balance of the cost of an electric vehicle.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor McLean, discussion. Councillor Blanchette.
I just feel like our CEO just mentioned that the message board that we will be getting is going to be doing sort of double duty, lots of different things that it can do. Right at this point in time, I don't see why we would need a second message board.
Further discussion, Councillor Pearson.
Well, I'm not sure that it would be a second message board. It would be the only one we have. And I look down the road at potential emergency situations where we're trying to evacuate people out of our community and need signage that we won't have, and we won't have this funding down the road.
So the stationary board is different than, this is the stationary board.
Okay.
Right? That's the second board. The one that we just put through was the big one, right?
Okay.
Am I completely confused? 'Cause-
No, maybe I was confused.
So that's the portable changeable message sign board. The one that we just put through is the big one that's going to be on the highway, correct? Okay.
It'd be the portable one, yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay.
So
No,
then this.
I stand corrected.
Oh, okay.
I stand corrected on that.
I thought maybe I was confused. Happens.
I was confused with the order of things
Okay.
too. So thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
No worries.
So we're good?
Yep.
Okay. Further discussion. All in favor? It is carried that the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant the funding for the stationary electronic board be reallocated towards the remaining balance of the cost of electric vehicle. Got that, staff? Awesome. Bylaws and policies. Section 9.1, Village of Belmont Cemetery Amendment Bylaw number 846, 2021. And the recommendation here that the Village of Valemount Cemetery bylaw number 685, 2012 amendment bylaw number 846, 2021 be given third reading as amended. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion? All in favor? It's carried. 9.2, Village of Valemount zoning bylaw number 847, 2021 be given first and second reading. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor McLean, any discussion? Have a boo, it's first and second. Be heading to public hearing, I suspect. All in favor? Carried. Nine point three, Village of Valemount procurement policy number 39, 2021. Recommendation here that the current policy number 39, effective November 12, 2013, be repealed and replaced with the new procurement policy number 39, 2021, and both were attached for your information. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, is there any discussion on the new policy 39, 2021 for procurement? Big highlight right at the front, everything's got to be pre-approved. And it just gives some urgency on some of the purchases that were approved. All in favor? Carried. Are there any notices of motion this evening? We'll head to council reports. Councillor McLean.
3 events. On the 10th, I had a local government committee of the Columbia River Treaty Negotiations telecon. On the 11th, I too was at the BC Hydro Operations Update with Mayor Torgerson. And on the 15th, we had the Clean Air Task Force meeting.
When was that BC Hydro meeting?
It was on the 11th.
Thank you very much. Add that in. Filling in the gap. There's got to be a gap in there somewhere. Councillor Blanchette.
The 14th, we had a child and youth mental health meeting. On the 15th, I joined Councillor McLean at our Clean Air Task Force. I'm looking forward to that airship management plan. That'll give us some direction. And so I think that's important. And one of the things I found that was really important in that Humira study was that they found that most of the dust that we see when you're coming out of the post office is not coming from the lake. And for years, I was always under the impression that it was. So for me, that was a real eye opener. So it's something that we need to address. The 17th was a housing meeting. And as always, we're in a housing crunch. I found out that we have people working and they are parking their trucks at the golf course and living in their trucks because there's nowhere to live. So not great. And on the 21st, I had the honor of attending the Indigenous Day Memorial Tribute. I don't think there are really any words to say anything other than I was moved and I was glad that I was able to be a part of that moment. And that's everything.
Councillor Pearson.
I went through my calendar twice. It came up pretty late this time. So June 11th had the Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway Association annual general meeting, which was held virtually just to deal with the necessary items. We're looking to do another special general meeting later in the year to deal with resolutions and stuff. And we're hoping that it might actually be an in-person type event. It'll be weird. The 15th, the Tourism Valemount meeting. And yesterday, the 21st as well, also attended the Indigenous Day ceremonies, both in the morning and the evening for the opening of space and closing. Yeah, quite a day.
June 9th had an annual general meeting of the Northern Medical Programs Trust, staying on another year as a director at large. June 11th, BC Hydro operations call with Councillor McLean in another room somewhere. They got to really up their game. Like a telephone call and reading off of a PowerPoint presentation is, while informative, I needed to turn on the AC just to, and I really enjoy all things Ken Basket. Later that day, with the help of Mr. Peters from VCTV, filmed the Step 2 reopening presentation on behalf of the village, and I believe Councillor Pearson did the same for Tourism Vermont. Had a Prince George Regional Advisory Committee meeting on the 14th. With the new programming through NDIT, we are seeing as an advisory committee, we are seeing a lot more oversubscription to the funding from NDIT than we have in the past. That revamp that you saw last September was not only embraced due to COVID, but just embraced. Gives a lot more flexibility for some of the economic opportunities that are out there here in Northern BC. That same day, I had a briefing with Vermont Emergency Medical Services. On the 16th, I had a VARTA board meeting via Zoom with the relaxation, or hopefully with the relaxation, we're almost thinking an in-person meeting for the third week in July. We'll just have to see how things play out pandemic-wise. On the 17th, it was a regional day, starting off with the newly formed Connectivity Committee and the Regional Environment and Parks Committee, and an open session with the Regional District Board. I too attended the National Indigenous Peoples Day event hosted by Mrs. Sherry Bobke and Ellen Duncan, and what an event. It was stirring. It was a chance to look inside, and it was a chance to look to the future. So hoping to make some personal changes in my own life there. Today was a big day. I met this morning with, if you recall, I did a civic leadership course last year, and we met with this year's course participants and a few of last year's alumni. And we actually had a call with the mayor of San Antonio, Mayor Nuremberg. And San Antonio was one of the first major cities, 2 million population plus, to sign the Compassionate Charter. So what that means is every decision that's made at their council table is done through the Charter of Compassion, whether it's from a budget standpoint, from social spending, and you saw things like, when they had the vast power outage in Texas, the amount of flexibility that council gave to nonprofit groups, opening of massive spaces for recovery and emergency social services. It was a really neat conversation with them today. Really pleased to get my second dose of the vaccine. Well-run vaccination clinic, thank you Northern Health. And it was 61 days to the minute. I had my vaccine, my first vaccine on the 21st, and 61 days later I had my second one. Mr. Robinson gave me some time today to review the agenda with him, and then we both engaged with another briefing of emergency medical services, or management services, pardon me. And then a reminder that we are still under a state of provincial emergency. It has been extended to, or fingers crossed, before July 6th. So there is musings of Premier Horgan making the daily briefings are no longer daily with Minister Dix and Dr. Bonnie Henry. They are now going to a weekly briefing. And next week, Premier Horgan will be joining the briefing. So we will see how good or not good BC has been leading up to July 1st. So looking forward to that day. I think we all have over the last 15 months. So that's my report. Motion to receive. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette. Discussion.
I would just like to add something to my report. I'd just like to add a huge thank you to Mrs. Bodke and to Ellen and to Chief Loring for coming up from the SIMP. It was a big day. It was an emotional day, and for them to take the time to come and be with us and to help us see, I think that was a really great thing for all of us. And it was really great to see the kids there from the school. So it was fantastic, as fantastic as it could be. But it was really important to have those people there with us to help us see.
I think it was Chief Loring was my first handshake in 14, 15 months. And
I
then
mean, the amount of work that Sherry and Ellen put into that was just incredible. So thank you very much. It's members in our community like that that help us get through these things, and it's important.
Absolutely. It was an outstanding day.
Mhm.
Further discussion, questions, comments for the reports? All in favor, receipt? It's carried. Are there any public comments received this evening?
There are no public comments, but could I make just a quick comment for the sake of the public? Sure. Just wanted to remind the public that there is only one council meeting in the month of July, and that council meeting will be taking place on July 27th. And we're really hoping that we'll be able to invite members of the public back into the council chambers once again. We'll let them know.
That would be outstanding. I mean,
We'll have to have gifts.
yeah.
Like chocolate or a sucker.
We've already set the 5-year financial. No public comments received, other than a July 27th single meeting in July. I imagine it'll be a long one. Or not. We'll see how it goes. Maybe we might even have an electric car by then.
Go for rides.
We're not proceeding in camera, so I'll take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Pearson.